Welcome to the Real Money Pathway, where I share my journey from financial collapse to lasting wealth. I'm David Kim, and I'll guide you through practical strategies that transform my finances and can transform yours too. Let's build your pathway to financial freedom.
The content of this podcast is provided for general information purposes only and do not constitute financial advice. Listeners should not act upon the content or information here without first seeking appropriate advice from a financial professional.
Welcome back to Real Money Pathway. I'm David Kim, and today we're wrapping Season 2 with something special. Over the past 12 episodes, we've covered everything from the protection mindset to insurance essentials, digital security, identity protection, tax strategies, and so much more. That's a lot of information, and I know it can feel overwhelming to figure out how all these pieces fit together. So today, instead of introducing new concepts, I want to show you how protection strategies work in real life through 2 detailed case studies. These are composites based on real experiences from people in our community who have successfully implemented the protection systems we've discussed. I've changed names and some details for privacy, but the strategies and outcomes are genuine. What makes these case studies powerful is that they show protection not as isolated tactics, but as integrated systems that work together. You'll see how someone caught identity theft within hours because of monitoring systems we discussed in episode 17. You'll watch a teacher systematically build comprehensive protection over a decade, adapting her strategies through marriage, children, and career changes. More importantly, you'll see that protection isn't just for wealthy people or for those who've already achieved financial success. Both of these individuals started building protection while still working toward their financial goals. They didn't wait until they had everything figured out. They built protection alongside everything else, and that protection enabled them to pursue opportunities with confidence. Let me start with Maria's story, because it demonstrates exactly why the identity protection systems we discussed in episode 17 matter so much. Maria is a 34-year-old nurse working at a regional hospital. She's a single mother with 2 kids, ages 8 and 11, and she's been focused on building financial stability after a difficult divorce 5 years ago. When she discovered our podcast, she was already doing well with basic budgeting, but hadn't thought much about protection beyond a small emergency fund. What caught her attention was episode 17 on identity protection. As a healthcare worker, Maria handles sensitive patient information daily, and she'd heard stories about data breaches in the healthcare industry. But she'd never really considered that her own information might be at risk, or that her role in healthcare might actually make her a target. After listening to that episode, Maria decided to implement a comprehensive identity protection system. She didn't spend a lot of money doing it. In fact, most of what she set up was completely free. She signed up for credit monitoring through Credit Karma, which monitors 2 of the 3 major credit bureaus at no cost. Her bank offered free credit monitoring for the 3rd bureau as part of her checking account benefits. She also set up a free Experian account for additional monitoring and alerts. Beyond credit monitoring, Maria created a My Social Security account online to monitor her Social Security record and set up alerts for any changes. This is something I recommend everyone do, by the way. It takes about 15 minutes and provides crucial protection against someone using your Social Security number fraudulently. Maria also implemented what I call professional information protection. As a nurse, her license number, employer information, and work history are somewhat public. She made sure to use unique, strong passwords for any accounts related to her nursing license, set up 2-factor authentication wherever possible, and began monitoring her state nursing board records for any unauthorized changes. The total time investment for this initial setup was about 3 hours spread across a weekend. The ongoing maintenance was about 15 minutes per month to review alerts and check her accounts. The cost was essentially zero for the basic monitoring services she chose. And now here's where this story gets interesting. About 8 months after setting up her protection system, Maria received an alert from one of her credit monitoring services. Someone had applied for a payday loan using her Social Security number, but at an address in a different state. The loan was for $2,000, and the application had been submitted just hours before the alert reached her. Maria told me that her first reaction was panic. Her heart started racing, and she felt that sick feeling in her stomach that comes when you realize someone has violated your personal information. But then she remembered the response plan she had created as part of her identity protection system. Instead of freezing up or making emotional decisions, she had a checklist to follow. Within the first hour after receiving the alert, Maria placed fraud alerts on all three credit bureaus. This is free and takes just a few minutes online. A fraud alert requires creditors to take extra steps to verify identity before opening new accounts, which helps prevent additional fraudulent applications. She then contacted the payday lender directly using the information from the alert. She explained that the application was fraudulent and asked them to reject it and flag her information in their system. The lender was actually quite helpful once they understood the situation. Next, Maria filed a report with the Federal Trade Commission through identitytheft.gov. This created an official record of the identity theft and generated a personalized recovery plan with specific steps for her situation. She also contacted her bank and credit card companies to alert them to the potential fraud and asked them to monitor her accounts for suspicious activity. None of her existing accounts had been compromised, but she wanted to ensure additional vigilance. Finally, Maria documented everything. Every phone call, every email, every confirmation number went into a folder she created specifically for this incident. This documentation would prove invaluable if any complications arose later. The investigation that followed revealed something Maria hadn't expected. The fraud attempt wasn't random, it was part of a coordinated effort targeting healthcare workers specifically. Somehow, a data breach had exposed information from healthcare professionals across several states, and criminals were using that information to apply for quick loans, hoping to get money before victims noticed. Because Maria caught the fraud within hours rather than weeks or months, she prevented the loan from being issued. Her credit was never damaged. She didn't lose any money. The entire incident, while stressful, was resolved within about 2 weeks with no lasting financial impact. But here's what Maria told me was the most valuable part of this experience. She said that before implementing her protection system, this fraud attempt would have been devastating. She might not have discovered it for months until collection agencies started calling about a loan she never took out. By then, her credit would have been damaged, affecting her ability to refinance her home or qualify for better interest rates on future loans. The recovery process would have taken years instead of weeks. Instead, because she had monitoring in place and a response plan ready, what could have been a financial catastrophe became a manageable inconvenience. She caught the problem early, responded systematically, and emerged without lasting damage. Maria's case illustrates something I emphasize repeatedly on this podcast. Protection isn't about paranoia, it's about preparation. The system she implemented cost nothing financially and required minimal ongoing time. But when the threat materialized, those systems made all the difference between a resolved incident and a multi year nightmare. Since her experience, Maria has become an advocate for identity protection within her hospital. She's shared what she learned with colleagues, several of whom have implemented similar systems. She views this as paying forward the protection that served her so well. The key takeaways from Maria's case are straightforward. First, free monitoring tools are genuinely effective. You don't need expensive identity protection services to catch fraud early. Second, having a response plan before you need it allows you to act quickly and systematically when threats emerge. Third, healthcare workers and others with professional licenses face additional identity risks that require specific attention. And fourth, documentation throughout the response process protects you if complications arise later. While Maria's story shows protection systems responding to an acute threat, Susan's journey demonstrates something equally important: how to build comprehensive protection systematically over time, adapting as life circumstances change. Susan is a 43-year-old who started her career as a high school English teacher. When she began implementing protection strategies about 10 years ago, she was single, renting an apartment, and earning a modest teacher's salary. Today, she's married with 2 children, owns rental property, runs a part-time education consulting business, and has built a comprehensive protection system that has evolved through every life transition. And her story matters because it shows that Protection building isn't a one time event, it's an ongoing process that adapts to your changing life. Susan discovered financial podcasts during a particularly difficult year early in her teaching career. A family emergency had wiped out her small savings, and she realized she had virtually no financial protection beyond basic health insurance through her school district. That vulnerability scared her into action. In her first phase of protection building, which covered roughly years 1 through 3, Susan focused on the absolute fundamentals. Her first goal was building a $1,000 emergency fund. On a teacher's salary with student loans to pay, this felt like a significant challenge. She committed to saving $50 per month, which meant her emergency fund took almost 2 years to reach $1,000. But she got there. During this same period, Susan maximized the insurance benefits available through her employer. The school district offered decent health insurance, and she enrolled in the basic life insurance and disability coverage available through payroll deduction. These weren't expensive additions, but they provided crucial protection she hadn't thought about before. She also purchased renter's insurance for her apartment. This cost about $30 per month and protected her belongings while also providing liability coverage in case someone was injured in her apartment. Before her financial awakening, she would have considered this an unnecessary expense. Now she saw it as essential protection. Her final focus during this first phase was creating basic legal documents. Using an online legal service that cost about $200, Susan created a simple will, a power of attorney, and a healthcare directive. These documents ensured that if something happened to her, her wishes would be known, and someone she trusted could make decisions on her behalf. Phase 2 covered approximately years 4 through 6. With her foundation established, Susan could focus on expanding and strengthening her protection. Her emergency fund grew from $1,000 to 3 months of expenses. This took sustained effort, but she gradually increased her monthly savings as she received small raises and paid down some of her student loan balance. During this phase, Susan purchased her first home using a special mortgage program for teachers in her state. This was both a financial milestone and a protection evolution. She now needed homeowners insurance rather than renters insurance, and she spent time understanding the coverage she needed to protect her investment. Susan also added supplemental disability insurance during this period. She had learned that teachers' disability benefits through the district were limited, and a serious illness or injury could leave her unable to work with inadequate income replacement. The supplemental policy cost about $60 per month, but would provide significant additional coverage if she ever needed it. She also began building her professional network more intentionally during this phase. She joined teacher associations, attended conferences, and developed relationships with other educators. These connections would later prove valuable both professionally and as sources of referrals and support. Phase 3, covering roughly years 7 through 10, represented Susan's transition to more sophisticated protection as her life became more complex. She got married during year 7, which required significant protection system updates. Susan and her husband combined their financial lives, which meant coordinating their protection strategies. They updated beneficiaries on all accounts and insurance policies. They revised their estate planning documents to reflect their new family structure. They had detailed conversations about their different approaches to financial protection and found ways to integrate their systems. When their first child arrived in year 8, protection took on new urgency. They increased life insurance coverage significantly, updated their estate plans to include guardianship provisions, and began thinking about education funding protection through 529 plans. Susan's career also evolved during this phase. She started doing education consulting on the side, which created additional income but also additional complexity. She formed an LLC to separate her consulting activities from her personal finances, providing liability protection for her growing side business. By year 10, Susan's protection system looked completely different from where she started. Her emergency fund had grown to 6 months of expenses. She had comprehensive insurance coverage across health, life, disability, home, auto, and umbrella liability. Her estate plan included a trust structure that provided more sophisticated protection and control over asset distribution. She had also expanded into rental property investment, requiring additional insurance and legal structures. Her consulting business had grown enough to warrant more formal business protection, including professional liability insurance. What impresses me most about Susan's journey is how she adapted her protection to each life stage without either falling behind or overbuilding. In her early years, she didn't waste money on protection she didn't need, but she also didn't neglect the fundamentals. As her life became more complex, her protection evolved to match. Susan shared some numbers that illustrate the return on her protection investments over the decade. She successfully claimed about $45,000 in insurance benefits across various incidents: a roof damaged by a storm, a car accident that wasn't her fault, a medical situation that required her disability coverage briefly. Without proper insurance, these events would have come directly out of her pocket or accumulated as debt. Her strategic tax planning, developed with a CPA she began working with in year 5, has saved her approximately $25,000 compared to what she would have paid without optimization. Her career advancement, supported by the professional network she built intentionally, increased her income by over $200,000 across the decade compared to the standard teacher salary progression. Her investment returns, which she attributes to the financial confidence that came from having proper protection, added another $150,000 to her net worth beyond what simple saving would have achieved. When Susan totals everything up, she estimates her protection investments have provided over $400,000 in quantifiable benefits over 10 years. And that doesn't include the peace of mind, the avoided crises, and the confidence to pursue opportunities that protection has provided. The key lessons from Susan's journey are important for anyone building protection during financial recovery. First, start with the fundamentals and build systematically. You don't need sophisticated protection when your life is simple, but you do need the basics in place. Second, adapt your protection as your life changes. Marriage, children, career changes, and new investments all require protection updates. Third, professional relationships matter for protection, not just for career advancement. Susan's network of advisors, colleagues, and service providers became crucial resources as her protection needs grew more complex. And fourth, protection investments generate measurable returns. Susan's careful tracking shows that proper protection more than pays for itself over time. These two case studies illustrate different aspects of protection, but they share common principles that apply to anyone building financial security. Let me pull together the key insights into an integrated framework you can use regardless of where you are in your protection journey. I think of protection building in 3 levels. Foundation level comes first and should be implemented before anything else. Intermediate level builds on that foundation as your resources and complexity grow. Advanced level becomes relevant as you accumulate significant assets and face more sophisticated risks. Foundation level protection includes 4 essential elements. First is emergency funds, starting with a minimum of $1,000 and building toward 1 month of expenses as quickly as possible. Maria had this foundation in place, which meant the identity theft incident didn't create a financial emergency on top of the identity crisis. Second is essential insurance. This means health insurance that protects you from catastrophic medical costs, auto liability insurance if you drive, and basic property insurance, whether you rent or own. These are non negotiable protections that prevent single incidents from destroying your financial progress. Third is basic legal documents. A will, power of attorney, and healthcare directive ensure that if something happens to you, your wishes are known and someone you trust can act on your behalf. Susan created these early in her journey using affordable online services, and they provided crucial protection even before she had significant assets. Fourth is credit protection. This includes monitoring your credit reports, placing freezes if appropriate, and maintaining excellent credit habits. Maria's credit monitoring caught the identity theft early, transforming what could have been a years-long nightmare into a resolved incident. Intermediate protection builds on this foundation as your resources grow. Disability insurance protects your income earning ability. which for most people is their most valuable asset during working years. Susan added supplemental disability coverage during her second phase when she realized her employer coverage was insufficient. Professional development for career protection might not seem like traditional financial protection, but Susan's investment in her network and skills provided crucial resilience when she eventually wanted to transition into consulting work. Legal structure enhancement becomes important as you accumulate assets or start businesses. Susan's LLC for her consulting work separated that activity from her personal finances, protecting her family's assets if something went wrong professionally. Identity protection systems, like what Maria implemented, provide ongoing monitoring and response capabilities that catch threats early and enable rapid response. Advanced protection becomes relevant as your wealth and complexity increase. This includes asset protection structures like trusts and sophisticated business entities, tax protection strategies that preserve wealth while remaining compliant, professional advisory teams that coordinate across legal, financial, and tax domains, and comprehensive risk management that addresses the full spectrum of threats to your financial security. Susan began building toward advanced protection in her later years as her net worth grew and her situation became more complex. The trust structure she eventually implemented provided benefits that simpler approaches couldn't offer. The timeline for implementing these levels varies based on individual circumstances, but as a general guide, foundation level protection should be your focus in your first year or two of serious financial recovery. This is non negotiable. You need these basics in place before pursuing more sophisticated strategies. Intermediate protection typically develops over years 2 through 5 as your income grows, your emergency fund strengthens, and your life potentially becomes more complex through marriage, children, or career changes. Advanced protection usually becomes relevant beyond year 5, though some elements might come earlier for people with higher income or more complex situations. The critical insight from both case studies is that protection isn't something you implement once and forget about. Maria's identity protection required ongoing maintenance, checking alerts, reviewing accounts, staying vigilant. Susan's protection evolved continuously through every life transition. Protection is an ongoing practice, not a completed project. Both Maria and Susan also demonstrate that protection builds confidence for pursuing opportunities. Maria's peace of mind about identity security lets her focus on her nursing career and her children without constant worry about financial threats. Susan's comprehensive protection gave her the confidence to pursue her consulting business, invest in real estate, and make other wealth building moves that would have felt too risky without proper protection in place. This is the ultimate purpose of everything we've covered in season 2. Protection isn't about fear or paranoia, it's about building the foundation that enables you to pursue your financial goals with confidence, knowing that you've prepared for the threats and challenges that inevitably arise along the way. Before we close out season 2, I want to briefly review the key concepts we covered across these 13 episodes because Maria and Susan's success came from integrating these ideas into coherent systems. In episode 14, we explored the protection mindset, discussing why protection matters at every wealth level and how to think about layered protection that addresses different types of risks. The tornado story I shared about huddling with my children while our roof was destroyed illustrated why income without protection is meaningless. Episode 15 covered insurance essentials during rebuilding, helping you understand which coverage is truly essential versus optional when resources are limited. Both Maria and Susan made insurance a priority early in their protection building, even when money was tight. Episodes 16 and 17 focused on digital and identity protection. Maria's case study shows exactly why these episodes matter. The systems she implemented directly prevented significant financial damage from identity theft. Episode 18 on tax strategies during recovery might not seem like protection content, but strategic tax planning protects your wealth from unnecessary erosion. Susan's estimated $25,000 in tax savings over her decade of protection building came from implementing concepts from that episode. Episode 19 covered legal protection during financial rebuilding, including the essential documents and structures that protect you and your family. Susan's progression from basic legal documents to sophisticated trust structures shows how legal protection evolves with your circumstances. Episode 20 explored the new credit landscape, discussing modern approaches to credit building and protection. Maria's credit monitoring was a direct application of concepts from that episode. Episode 21 addressed building your financial security team, recognizing that professional relationships provide crucial support as your financial life becomes more complex. Susan's development of relationships with ACPA, attorney, and insurance professionals exemplifies this principle. Episodes 22 through 24 covered housing security, career security, and protecting family through financial challenges. Susan's home purchase using teacher-specific mortgage programs and her career development through intentional networking show these concepts in action. Episode 25 revealed safety net resources that many people don't know exist, from government programs to professional association support. Susan's access to teacher-specific programs accelerated her path to homeownership. And today, in episode 26, we've seen how all these concepts integrate through Maria and Susan's real-world experiences. The through line across all of season 2 is that protection enables opportunity. When you have proper protection in place, you can pursue wealth building strategies with confidence rather than fear. You can take calculated risks, knowing that setbacks won't destroy your progress. You can focus your energy on growth rather than constant worry about what might go wrong. That's the bridge to season 3, which focuses on rebuilding wealth. Everything we've built in seasons 1 and 2, the foundation of financial recovery and the protection systems that secure that foundation, prepares you to pursue wealth building from a position of strength. As we close season 2, I want to give you a preview of where we're heading. Season 3 is called Rebuilding Wealth, and it's where the hard work of seasons 1 and 2 starts to pay off in accelerated financial growth. We'll begin with the wealth rebuilding mindset, exploring how to transition from defensive financial management to offensive wealth building while maintaining the wisdom you've gained from financial recovery. The protection systems you've built aren't limitations on growth. They're what make aggressive growth strategies possible. We'll cover investment fundamentals specifically designed for the recovery phase, helping you start building wealth through the stock market, even if you're beginning with small amounts. I'll share my journey from being terrified to invest after bankruptcy to building a substantial portfolio starting with just $25 per week. We'll explore real estate strategies after financial reset, including how Lacey and I approached our Austin home purchase and the investment principles that allowed us to nearly double our money in just over 2 years. We'll discuss side hustles that actually work, career advancement as a wealth building tool, and my 30-20-50 framework for accelerating wealth accumulation. Each episode will build on the foundation and protection you've established to help you pursue wealth building with confidence and effectiveness. The case studies from today's episode show where protection building can lead. Maria has the security to focus on building wealth without constant fear of identity threats. Susan has built a comprehensive system that supports her rental property investments, her consulting business, and her family's long-term security. You can build something similar. It takes time and it requires consistent effort, but the path is clear. Start with foundation protection. Build systematically as your resources grow. Adapt your protection as your life changes, and let that protection provide the confidence for pursuing wealth building opportunities. Your assignment as we close season 2 is to conduct a comprehensive protection audit using the framework we've discussed today. Go through each element of foundation, intermediate, and advanced protection and honestly assess where you stand. Identify which protection elements you've already implemented successfully. Acknowledge that progress. Then identify which foundation elements still need attention. If you're missing any basics, those become your immediate priority. Finally, identify which intermediate protections should be your next focus based on your current life circumstances. Create a protection roadmap for the next 12 months. What specifically will you implement and when? Having a written plan dramatically increases the likelihood that you'll actually follow through. I've created a protection implementation checklist that consolidates all the key elements from season 2 into a single comprehensive tool. You can find it on realmoneypathway.com and therealmoneyguide.com. Use it to track your progress and ensure you're not missing crucial elements. I'd love to hear about your protection building journey. Visit realmoneypathway.com and share what you've implemented from season 2, what challenges you faced, and what successes you've achieved. Your experiences might help others who are earlier in their protection journey. Thank you for being part of this community through season 2. The protection systems you build now will serve you for the rest of your financial life, enabling the wealth building we'll explore in season 3. Until next time, I'm David Kim. Remember, it's not just about money, it's about building your real money pathway to freedom. Thanks for joining me on the Real Money Pathway podcast. I'm David Kim, reminding you that financial success isn't about perfection, it's about progress. So subscribe now for more strategies, and remember, your journey to lasting wealth starts with the very next decision you make.